Just the courtyard here, the things outside where the people would come into this. This is the actual tabernacle area. So you got the courtyard, and inside you got the holy place, which is the first section right there. And then you got the most holy place, which is where this atonement offering would be made. And again, remember, only the high priest could enter the most holy place, and he could only do it on one day per year. Now, also sitting inside there, you see right there is the, well, you guys know this is the Ark of the Covenant, which represented the throne of God. Upon that is the mercy seat. This is where the presence of God is. He's going to be in this spot, in this place, on this day. Is making the sacrifice, the atoning sacrifice for all the people. And so when he goes in there that one day a year, he is bringing the sins of Israel before God. But again, he can't just walk in like it's just another normal day, right? He can't walk in casually and just flippantly. He has to walk in there in a precise order. That's exactly everything. Mentioned so many times, or mentioned you're going to be like, what in the world is this talking about? Mentioned so many times, or mentioned you're going to be like, what in the world is this talking about? Leviticus explains a lot of this. Leviticus explains a lot of this. Hebrews chapter 9 and verse 10 explains the day of appointment. A priest that would enter 9 and verse 10 explains the day of appointment. A priest that would enter one time a year with the blood of the animals, but Jesus entered the heavenly presence of God once and for all. Hebrews 9, 11, and 12 explains it this way. But when Christ appeared as a high priest of the good things to come, not through the blood of goats and calves, but through his own blood, he entered the holy place once for all, having obtained eternal redemption. And so when you look at Leviticus 16, really what you're seeing here is probably one of the clearest and most obvious foreshadowing of the cross. A question, why do you think the high priest had to represent everyone instead of each person entering individually? Oh, I think there's a couple of logistical things would probably be true there, right? Logistically, it'd be a nightmare. It would take forever. Probably couldn't do that all in one day. But I think probably more correct would be that the entire sacrificial system was built on representation and substitution. I mean, that's really all it is, right? You have a mediator, you have the high priest here, and you have a sacrifice. In the same way that Jesus was both of those things, you've got one standing for many, just in the same way Jesus is going to stand for everybody. Now, something I was trying to, I don't know how they were feeling. I can't put myself back into that time at all in their culture because people felt. How do you think they felt? How do you think they felt? This is, I guess, again, subjection, I get it. But how do you think the people felt? If you were back then and you knew every year you had to make this sacrifice, the high priest had to make this sacrifice on your behalf, how would you feel? How would you feel? Knowing this is every year. Could be a lot of things, right? This all goes the way it's supposed to go. Also, there's hope here. Right? I think there's some hope that can be found, that there is hope that I can be forgiven. Also, I think maybe that one day a year, there is some pretty big relief, right? And maybe some gratitude that this could happen. But there's a lot of things. This is not just, listen, like when they were doing this wasn't like, oh, yeah, here it is, Day of Atonement's coming, oh yeah, just another day. This is a big day in their lives. And so it was the day. Yeah.
God has extended his grace to us in the form of his Son. God was extending grace to them under the old law.
Yeah.
It just had to be repeated
Yeah.
annually.
Yeah.
So there should have still been an attitude of thankfulness.
Yeah, the gratitude for sure.
God
Yep.
provided a way.
Yep. And that's why I said I think there have been a lot of feelings going on. It's the same thing. I think, when I remember I've been studying for a good while at that point, not a long time, but about a month or something, maybe a little longer than that, not maybe just like 4 or 5 weeks, something like that. And I'd come to the conclusion that this was definitely something that was correct. And also my first initial thought was there was some fear there because I'm thinking, oh man, like I've really messed up. Like I've done a lot of things that were not right. I thought about all the sin in my life for sure. I thought about, man, like would God really do that for me? Like, does he care for me? I had that thought was, man, I know who I am, and God should not, he should not save me. Shouldn't happen. That fear was there. But also, when we started reading through the gospel and really I was thinking on it, I thought, man, well, there's a big hope that is here as well. Right? There's hope for me that, like you said, there is God shining His grace upon the people and giving us a shot. And so ultimately, I remember that day. It's probably you guys probably were very similar that have obeyed the gospel. Just the relief. It's just you're thankful. Like the gratitude is there for sure, but to me, it's like, that's lifted off of me. And I think that's probably at least one day a year. But again, the wild thing about that is that's every year. They have to deal with that every single year. Now, again, here in Leviticus chapter 16, there's two images that kind of dominate, being the one we want to talk about, carrying the sins away, but they both matter. You're removed all together. So again, back into chapter 16 and verse 1, I'll read through that again. Now we have a little context. Now the Lord spoke to Moses after the death of the two sons of Aaron, when they had approached the presence of the Lord and died. So again, going back there, approaching God on their own terms, in their own way, with their own fire, doing what they wanted to do. And so I think the point of bringing that up here, right, you have to do this right. Now, I don't think he's mentioning the deaths to shame them at all at this point in time. He's mentioning it, I believe, to protect the priest. So you can't just walk into my presence however you want to and still be able to live to tell about it. Verse 2. The Lord said to Moses, tell your brother Aaron that he shall not enter at any time until enter at any time. You notice that? So that tells you he can't just do this anytime he wants to, right? This is the one time a year that he can do this, one day per year, by the way, one man and just one specific ritual. Now, if you want to know what the mercy seat is, it's kind of a diagram of what it could look like. It was basically the lid, right? The top part there in the middle. It was the golden lid of the Ark of the Covenant. This is where God's presence was symbolically and in many ways figuratively, realistically manifested. But between the cherubim above the ark, God said, like you said there, he would appear in a cloud. And so that space, that spot, that position there represented God's position, his throne among his people. You think about it like a high priest there with Jesus, you could certainly think about it in that way. Verse 3, Aaron shall enter the holy place with this, with the bull for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. So before himself, right? He's got to first make a sacrifice for himself. Why? Even the high priest is a sinner. That's obvious, right? That's the understanding here that it doesn't matter the position that he's in, it doesn't exclude him from being a sinner. And so he's got to do this first. He's a mediator between God and people, and he still needed forgiveness, just like anybody else, the common man did. But he represented Israel, so that's kind of a problem, right? So he has to do this as well. And again, by the way, that's why the priesthood could never be the final solution, because even at their very best, they were still sinners, right? Ultimately, why we look in, again, Hebrews chapter 7, and really like those high priests to offer up sacrifices, first for his own sacrifice every day for his own sin, because he didn't sin. He was the perfect high priest. He didn't have to make a sacrifice for himself. Verse 4, he shall put on the holy linen tunic, and the linen undergarment shall be next to his body, and he shall be girded with the linen sash and attired with the linen turban. These are holy garments. Then he shall wear, he would normally wear every day, most of the time. This is going to be reason for that. You remember if you look at the good one there, the fancy one, it's gold and blue on there. But on the Day of Atonement, he wears just a very, very simple white linen. And the reason is because on this day, the high priest comes in humility. This is not about the glory of God, right? This is about humility, seeking mercy for himself and also for his people. And I don't have to, you guys know the symbolism for white, right? White represents purity, right? White represents something that's clean. It represents cleansing and humility. And by the way, it tells you that he also washed his entire body. So again, approaching God required cleansing. Very interesting section here. Verse number 5. He shall take from the congregation of the sons of Israel 2 male goats for a sin offering and 1 ram for a burnt offering. So again, it's going to mention the goats first, even though they're not the first in the process that you're going to see following this. And I think the reason that's going to be happening, the goats kind of are it. The Day of Atonement is, when I think of the Day of Atonement, I think of the scapegoat, right? That's what I think of. It's famous for the two goats. And so God introduces them first because I guess you could call them like the main event of the ceremony, if you will, kind of the main thing that's going on there. Probably think about it like this. Maybe you're introducing characters, the main characters in a story before describing the the song after the lesson will be 917 in the Maroon Book. 917 in the Maroon Book. I want to talk about assumptions, and the reason is anytime something happens on a day like today, where I'm thinking, I got ideas for devotional. I had a really good one today, really easy. We had some workers, our water got shut off. They've been working on a road. They're also working on the road behind us, and I think another road as well. So they told us, by the way, we got a thing on the mail or on the door that said they're going to shut off our water from the 13th to 27th during the day, quite a bit. Well, it started today. As you know, today is not the 13th. Today is 11th. City was ahead, or the contracts were ahead of schedule. So that kind of started off in a weird spot. But in the process of all that, too, we had some city workers. They came and knocked on the door today, and they said, we need access to the alleyway. There's some sewage stuff going on, and there's none of your neighbors that are home, and so can we go through your yard? Yeah, I don't care. Come through my yard. Our back gate is one that, because it's so old and worn out now, I need to fix it. It's just screwed shut, so you have to screw it and unscrew it and I told them, I was like, here's how you do this and all that, and that's fine. They were in and out. They shut a couple of dogs in our yard that were not ours. Well, they're still running in the backyard, and they're trying to get my goats. Not too happy about that. So Jaden comes in to tell me, and I say, well, just go run them off. Just go run them off. The first assumption, by the way, was that the dogs belonged to us. The second assumption was that Jaden knew how to run dogs off. I've grown up around dogs. The family, my family all lived on a compound, basically, and I had to walk past a Doberman all the time. I had a stick that I carried on the way to the bus, and I left it on the other side in case the dog came after me, and I had a stick on the way back in case I needed it, and I would place it in a certain spot, so I had it there every day. Well, he goes out there and not naive about what's going to happen with this dog, and one of the dogs, he's trying to shoo them away, is fine and is willing to kind of go away. The other is not. And all I hear is Jaden, he's yelling. He's yelling. And this other dog had come after him and tripped him up and kind of had him against the fence. And he's Thankfully, he's wearing jeans, and it's like a half pit bull, half something else. So it could have been pretty bad, but it's an older dog, so nothing really happens, right? But again, my assumption there was that he knew how to do that, but again, that's an assumption that could have caused a problem there for sure. Now, eventually, I went out there and I was like, Jaden, what are you doing? And he's like, well, and I was like, Jaden, you have to have something with you. And so I pick up a plastic bat. It's not a big baseball bat. And, I hit that dog on the head a couple times, and it doesn't hurt. It's a plastic bat. When we come back, the gate is open. They walk out fine. They cause a problem, can't they? When you make assumptions, problems can occur. The Bible warns, by the way, about assumptions. Assumptions can be dangerous because they place, they report what we know entirely. Proverbs chapter 14 and verse 12 puts it this way: there is a way which seems right to a man, but its end is the way of death. What seems right to us, even an assumption that we make, it's not always right. That is why God calls us to be people who seek wisdom, to check carefully, to follow His Word, to be very, very careful following His Word rather than making our own assumptions. Sometimes a lot of trouble in life can just be started with an assumption about something. And it could be a big problem, it could be a little problem. There's a lot of people who assume that they are Lord's invitation. If you need to be baptized into Christ tonight for the remission of your sins, we rejoice in that decision. But maybe tonight there's something else going on in your life, and maybe you just need some encouragement and some prayers. We can help you in any way. Please come as we stand and sing.
The sins I cannot count, that all may cleansed be. All to Thee, the burden is too great for me. The burden to Thee, the grief I cannot tell. No words shall need it be. Thou knowest all so well. I bring the sorrow laid on me, O suffering Savior. My life I be my own. O Savior, let me be Thine ever, Thine alone. My heart, my life, my all I bring to Thee, my Savior and my King. To Thee, my Savior and my King. Be seated.
Here are the evening's announcements. Right now we have no one in the hospital notes. For our prayer list, Sandy Ward is recovering from surgery on her shoulder. For friends and family who need our prayers, please continue to remember Angie Darling's sister, Babsy Altman, in your prayer. After morning worship, please morning at 9 a.m. for Bible class and 10 a.m. for worship.
Let's all stand and we'll have our closing song, and then we'll be led in our closing prayer by Mike Sweat.
Darkness comes in like a flood.
worship and to study your word. Heavenly Father, we ask that your plan for salvation for us be